Greetings, subject matter experts. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to reach out to you. I was gone all week long. I've had a horrible head cold and I'm starting to feel better. So I am back in the saddle and I just wanted to create a little video for you about what tomorrow is going to look like. So just think about this as me whispering on your shoulder some little tips and tricks for tomorrow. So tomorrow, Leadership Academy number 2, Build It and They Will Come. Our audience is going to be head of schools, and we will be meeting as a whole group in the main room, and then we'll be breaking out into smaller groups. So let me share with you how this is going to work. During the first 10 minutes, I will be giving an overview to the whole team, just walking them through the first 3 weeks so they can see what it is that we're going to be doing and just giving them some structure to what it is that we're going to be talking about. And then we'll be breaking them into small groups. What I'll do is I will leave strategic leadership in the main room, and then we'll break out the other 4 groups down below. So then anyone who's watching a recording will at least get something on their recording because strategic leadership will be in the main room. So the first slide is the elevator speech. So the question is, if you were to give a 3-minute elevator speech explaining what you do in your school as a strategic leader, instructional leader, a communicator, so on, what would you say? So they will have their Titan Pad. I'll make sure that they have a link to this week's S'more. This week's S'more has the Titan Pad link in there, so they'll be able to hop on and share right on that pad like we did last week how they'd answer this question. What would that 3-minute elevator speech look like? I would just have them do keywords at this point because we only have, I think we set aside 15 minutes for this. So we just want to make sure that it's short and sweet just to get their brain going. And then what we'll do is we'll bring them back into your main room. You'll call them back together, give them a few minutes to share, and then ask whole group, tell us what your elevator speech would look like. Basically, you're pulling out of them what the main ideas are around strategic leadership, for instance. What does a strategic leader do? What does that look, sound, and feel like? You want to begin to pull those keywords out, and they want to start to get a picture of what that would look, sound, and feel like. I'll have a timer going, and the timer will just be a 15-minute timer. I'm going to just set it so moderators see it, so you will see the timer blink, and then you'll know it's time to move to the next slide. The next slide is going to be what high-value activities produce high quality outcomes. So the question is, what is your highest value activity you do as a instructional leader? You want them to capture these ideas on their Titan Pad. Again, this is just to get their brain going. We want to find out what are the high value activities that they're doing in the workplace that we can capture, codify, and then begin to break into small, succinct steps so we can share these with other leaders. So this is an opportunity for them just to sit down, to come up with these activities. This was part of the newsletter that came out. It was one of those questions, so they should have already done this. It won't take them all but maybe 5 minutes. And then you're going to bring them back whole group and try to come up with, basically what you're going to do is try to figure out, give them a chance to share, and then try to figure out what those highest value activities are. And then once you identify those, I would say no more than 2, because we really want our head of schools to get behind these practices and really have opportunities for deep practice in these areas. So we want 2 with the most meat that we really feel like will move the needle. So this will be some conversation with them of sharing these out and then moving to the idea of which one moves the needle the most. So the question is, if we choose 2 to 3 activities that could move the needle in your leadership standard, what would those be? So this is your last session with them, your last amount of time. Let me just take a quick peek here. Looks like you'll have 20 minutes for this part of the activity. You're going to ask them, what are these activities? Let's take a look at what everybody brings to the table, and then let's come up with 2 to 3. I try to stick with 2 if I were you. I think it'll be more manageable. And then have them really talk about what are the pros and cons of the different activities, which ones are really moving the needle in the schools, where are you seeing the biggest bang for your buck. Once we've decided upon those, then we can turn to the final activity, which is the homework that they'll be doing. And this is the slide for the homework. We're going to chunk down the learning into very succinct steps. So they're going to work in small groups. If there's 2 activities, then I would break them into 2 small groups. Those small groups are going to work offline, and they're going to chunk the learning into small steps using this template and send it to the group leader, send it to you by October 15th. I will have a live link here to the template, so they'll just be able to click on that. The template will open up and it just says chunk this down into 5 small steps or whatever they want, however they want to do that. So it could be just as simple as the, the 4 steps to being a high quality instructional leader in such and such area. And those steps would be listed there. They'll send those to you. And then in the main document that I sent you earlier, I will attach it to this training. You will just put those up into your Dropbox. And I know all of you have links to your Dropbox. You'll put that up into your Dropbox, and then we'll make sure that that becomes the content for your training when we meet together in Herndon. So we just went over the first hour of our training in small buckets, 15 minutes for the first session, 15 minutes for the second, and 20 for the third with offline homework. So then we'll take a 10-minute break at the top of the hour, and then when we come back, we will begin the second part of the session, which is creating some dialogue. The first thing we're going to do in dialogue is they're going to take 10 minutes to answer questions that are embedded in this week's newsletter. So the best way to do this, because we're all in one group, is to have them exchange cell phone numbers. So they could just write their name on the whiteboard below and write their cell phone number. Have them pair up with somebody. You'll probably have small groups of about 8 to 10. So if you have 11, just have a group of 3. That's not a problem. And those questions are inside of the s'more. They're underneath the appreciative inquiry video. So there's probably about 25 questions there. So have them just take 10 minutes to answer questions around their standard area. There's specific questions about HR, there's specific questions about instructional leadership, strategic leadership. This is just to get their brain going before we begin our important work. Now we're going to move to the Titan Pad. The main question is, what makes appreciative inquiry questions unique? They had the opportunity to watch the video that was sent out inside of the s'more, and then to have this beginning discussion and actually experience these questions. So the question becomes, what makes these appreciative inquiry questions, this technique, unique? And the answer is that they're framed in a positive way. And so they can just begin to talk about what makes for really good questions. They could share those ideas on their Titan Pad. And then you could bring that together, a whole group, and just ask a few people to share out. That activity is probably going to take about 10 minutes, and then we're going to move into the last 25 minutes. This is where they're actually going to create appreciative inquiry questions of their own. They're going to design these questions using the AI questions from the newsletter as their template. So the newsletter has those 25 questions on it. Feel free to use those as a template. So for instance, one of the questions was, it's the year 2030 and U.S. News and World Report has ranked the highest ranking schools. And the question is what makes your school stand out as an instructional model within this report? What is it that makes your school stand out? So that's one of the questions. You can use that for anything. You can use it for as a strategic leader. You can choose Time Magazine Person of the Year. What makes you a strategic leader? You could talk about communication and use a different publication if you'd like. Those become the prompts, or the templates, if you will, for these questions. They can choose questions of their own. You don't have to use those as a template. It might just be a really easy starting spot. They may be able, this is designed as homework, but my thinking is that they'll probably be able to do these questions in a short amount of time. So if it were me, and this is what I've written here, I would have them break into 3 groups. One group is going to create some questions for partners. Well, they'll be working in groups of 2. One group will be creating questions for foursomes, groups of 4, and then the last group will be creating 2 questions for the whole group. And so what I would do is I would just have them create those questions there on the fly. They have 25 minutes to do that. And then what I will do is I will put the template in here. Again, it's going to be clickable. So they can just click on that template. The template will open up. It'll say question number 2, question number 1, question number 2. They'll save their work, and then they'll send that on to you, and then you can upload that to your Dropbox. So I'm thinking within the 25 minutes, they'll have an opportunity to finish that. If they finish early, I would circle right back up, since you've spent some time with them earlier, and I would work more on this question here where they're working in small groups and chunking the learning into small succinct steps. And so as soon as they're finished, you can come up with some way that you can celebrate. I've included a celebration slide in here. I don't see any need for us to come back together as a whole group. I will monitor you again just by coming into the rooms as needed, and then also creating the 10, 15, and 25 minute time timers at the top so that you know when it's time to move to the next session. So I will send all of this to you inside of an email. If you have any questions before tomorrow, please let me know. And Darren, Mike, and I will be there if you have any questions at all. Just raise your hand and we'll come into your group and help you out. Thank you so much for your work as a subject matter expert. It's such a breath of fresh air knowing that we have such talent out in the field that we can really capitalize on and use for situations like these. So we really appreciate you sharing your time and talents. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow during Leadership Academy. Bye for now.